In the heart of Atlanta, Georgia, where skyscrapers kissed the clouds and dreams were as vast as the horizon, there lived a woman named Maya Reynolds. She wasn't just any woman, she was a force to be reckoned with. Born into a modest family, Maya grew up watching her parents work tirelessly to make ends meet. Her father drove a taxi, while her mother cleaned offices late at night. Despite their struggles, they always encouraged Maya to dream big and never settle for less than she deserved. From an early age, Maya showed a knack for leadership. In school, she organized fundraisers, led student councils, and even started a small club to help underprivileged kids get access to books. But what truly set her apart was her passion for hospitality. As a child, she loved visiting hotels during family vacations. The grand lobbies, the warm smiles of staff members, and the feeling of being treated like royalty fascinated her. It wasn't about luxury. It was about how these places made people feel welcome and valued. After high school, Maya enrolled in a local community college to study business management. Money was tight, so she juggled classes with part-time jobs. One summer, she landed an internship at a small hotel chain called Comfort Nest Inn. Though it wasn't glamorous, Maya threw herself into the work. She learned everything she could about operations, customer service, and problem solving. Her supervisors quickly noticed her dedication and promoted her to a full-time position within months. Over the next decade, Maya climbed the ranks faster than anyone expected. She worked long hours, often skipping meals and sleep, but she didn't mind. Each promotion brought her closer to her dream of owning her own hotel someday. Along the way, she faced countless challenges. Some colleagues doubted her abilities because of her background. Others dismissed her ideas simply because she was young and female. But Maya refused to let negativity slow her down. Instead, she used it as fuel to push harder. By the time she turned 30, Maya had saved enough money to invest in her first property, a rundown motel on the outskirts of Atlanta. With a team of trusted friends and mentors, she transformed the dilapidated building into a cozy boutique inn. She named it Luxustay, inspired by her vision of offering guests not just a place to stay, but an experience they would cherish forever. Luxustay became an instant hit. Word spread quickly about the charming little inn run by a dynamic woman who greeted every guest personally. People admired Maya's attention to detail, the fresh flowers in each room, the handwritten notes welcoming visitors, and the complimentary cookies baked daily. Within 2 years, Luxustay expanded to 3 locations across Georgia. Investors took notice, and soon, Maya secured funding to build her flagship property, the Grand Luxustay. Located in downtown Atlanta, the Grand Luxustay was unlike anything the city had seen before. Its sleek design blended modern architecture with southern charm. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered breathtaking views of the skyline, while plush interiors exuded elegance and comfort. From gourmet restaurants to rooftop pools, every corner of the hotel reflected Maya's personality: bold, innovative, and inviting. Celebrities checked in for private retreats, corporate executives booked suites for meetings, and tourists flocked to experience its magic. Despite her success, Maya remained grounded. She visited each Luxustay location regularly, ensuring that every employee felt valued and every guest left satisfied. She believed deeply in the power of human connection and often reminded her staff, "Our job isn't just to provide shelter, it's to create memories." However, Maya's journey wasn't without hurdles. As one of the few Black women in the hospitality industry, she encountered prejudice more times than she cared to count. Some investors questioned her capabilities, assuming she lacked the experience needed to run such a large enterprise. Others outright refused to collaborate, citing vague reasons that thinly masked their biases. Yet Maya handled these moments with grace and resilience. She knew that proving them wrong would require not just talent but also patience and perseverance. Her hard work paid off. By the age of 35, Maya stood at the helm of Luxustay Hotels, a thriving brand recognized nationwide. Magazines featured her as a trailblazer, and conferences invited her to share her story. But despite all the accolades, Maya stayed humble. She credited her success to the lessons she learned growing up, to treat everyone with kindness, to embrace challenges as opportunities, and to always believe in oneself. Little did she know her greatest test was looming just around the corner. A single incident would shake her foundation, challenge her values, and ultimately redefine her legacy. But for now, Maya basked in the glow of her achievements, proud of how far she had come, and excited about the future ahead. After all, she had built her empire from scratch, brick by brick, dream by dream. And no matter what life threw her way, she was ready to face it head-on. The evening air was cool and crisp as Maya Reynolds stepped out of her car outside the Grand Lux Estate, her flagship hotel in downtown Atlanta. The day had been long, but rewarding. She'd spent hours attending a high-profile industry gala where Lux Stay Hotels received an award for excellence in hospitality. As she walked toward the entrance, Maya felt a deep sense of pride. This towering building, with its gleaming glass facade and elegant design, wasn't just a hotel. It was a symbol of everything she had worked so hard to achieve. Maya wasn't planning on staying overnight. She had initially intended to drive home after the event. But as the night wore on, fatigue crept in. Her feet ached from walking in heels all evening, and her mind buzzed with thoughts of budgets, marketing campaigns, and expansion plans. Why not stay here? She thought to herself. After all, this was her hotel. She deserved a quiet, comfortable night in one of her own suites. Dressed casually in jeans, a fitted blazer, and minimal makeup, Maya entered the lobby. The space hummed with activity, guests checking in, bellhops carrying luggage, and soft piano music playing in the background. It was the kind of atmosphere Maya loved, lively yet serene. She approached the front desk, ready to request a room for the night. Behind the counter stood Carl, a young man who appeared to be new to the job. He greeted her with a polite smile, his name tag glinting under the chandelier light. "Good evening," he said cheerfully. "How can I assist you?" "I'd like a room for tonight," Maya replied confidently, pulling out her driver's license and credit card. She handed them over, expecting the usual swift process. Checking into your own hotel should have been the simplest thing in the world, or so she thought. Carl took the ID and scanned it carefully. For a moment, everything seemed normal. Then, something shifted. His expression changed ever so slightly, though Maya couldn't quite place what it meant. Instead of typing her information into the system right away, he paused. His eyes darted between her face and the ID, lingering perhaps a second too long. "I'm sorry, ma'am," Carl finally said, his tone hesitant. "But we're fully booked. Tonight." Maya blinked, caught off guard. Fully booked? That didn't make sense. She knew the occupancy rates like the back of her hand. It was a Wednesday, one of the slowest nights of the week. Even during peak seasons, there were always a few rooms available. Something about his response felt off. "Are you sure?" she asked, leaning slightly forward. "There must be some mistake." Carl nodded quickly, avoiding eye contact. "Yes, ma'am. I double-checked. All our rooms are occupied." There was a stiffness in his voice now, a forced politeness that made Maya uneasy. Before she could press further, he added, "If you'd like, I can call another hotel nearby to see if they have availability." The words hit Maya like a punch to the gut. Another hotel? In her own establishment? She stared at him, trying to process what was happening. Was this really happening? Here she was, the CEO of Lux Stay Hotels, being told she couldn't get a room in the very building she owned. And worse, the implication hung heavy in the air, that somehow she didn't belong here. For a split second, Maya considered letting it slide. Maybe Carl was genuinely mistaken. Perhaps he was new and hadn't been trained properly. But then she noticed the subtle cues, the way his gaze flickered when she spoke, the slight edge in his tone when he suggested calling another hotel. These weren't signs of confusion or incompetence. They were signs of bias. Her heart sank as realization dawned. This wasn't about availability or protocol. This was about how she looked. Jeans and a blazer weren't exactly what people expected a CEO to wear, especially in such a luxurious setting. To Carl, she probably seemed out of place, a black woman standing in a space dominated by wealthy white patrons. Unconsciously or not, he had judged her based on appearances rather than facts. Maya's stomach churned with a mix of emotions: anger, disbelief, and disappointment. Anger at the audacity of the situation, disbelief that this was happening in her own hotel, and disappointment because she had worked tirelessly to create a culture of inclusivity and respect within Luxestay. Yet here was proof that even the best intentions couldn't shield her from the harsh realities of prejudice. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to remain calm. Losing her temper wouldn't solve anything. Instead, she decided to handle the situation strategically. With a measured tone, she said, "Thank you for your help, but I'll take care of this myself." Without waiting for a response, she turned and walked away, her mind racing with possibilities. As soon as she was out of earshot, Maya pulled out her phone and dialed Jamal, her trusted assistant. Within minutes, Jamal arrived at the scene, accompanied by two senior managers who immediately recognized their CEO. When confronted, Carl stammered, clearly flustered. He claimed he hadn't recognized Maya and insisted he was simply following standard procedures. But the damage was done. Standing there in the lobby, surrounded by the opulence she had created, Maya felt a surge of determination. This incident wasn't just a personal affront. It was a wake-up call. If someone like her, the founder and CEO of the company, could face discrimination in her own hotel, imagine what others might endure. This wasn't just about Carl. It was about a deeper issue that needed addressing. With resolve burning in her chest, Maya made a silent promise to herself. She would turn this painful experience into an opportunity, not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever felt marginalized or unseen. This wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of something much bigger. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. The encounter with Carl replayed in her mind like a broken record, each loop more infuriating than the last. She tossed and turned in the plush bed of her private penthouse suite, staring at the ceiling as thoughts swirled through her head. How could this happen? In her own hotel? After everything she had built, after every battle she had fought to rise above prejudice and doubt, how could she still be treated this way? But anger wasn't the only emotion keeping her awake. Beneath the frustration was a deep sense of betrayal, not just by Carl, but by the system that allowed such biases to exist unchecked. Maya had always prided herself on creating a workplace culture rooted in respect and inclusivity. Luxestay Hotels wasn't just about luxury, it was about making people feel valued, no matter who they were or where they came from. Yet here she was facing the ugly truth that even her carefully constructed empire wasn't immune to discrimination. By morning, Maya's fury had transformed into something else: determination. She knew this incident wasn't just about her, it was a reflection of a much larger issue. If someone like her, a successful black woman and CEO, could be denied service in her own establishment, what did that say about the experiences of others? What about the countless guests who might have faced similar treatment without the power or platform to speak up? With a renewed sense of purpose, Maya called an emergency meeting with her executive team. By 9 a.m., the boardroom was filled with senior managers, HR representatives, and key department heads. The atmosphere was tense. Everyone could tell this wasn't going to be an ordinary discussion. When Maya walked in, her presence commanded attention. Her usual warm smile was replaced by a steely resolve that made it clear this meeting was serious business. "Last night I experienced something I never thought I would," Maya began, her voice steady but firm. "I was denied a room in my own hotel." A collective gasp rippled through the room. Some leaned forward in disbelief, while others exchanged uneasy glances. Maya went on to recount the entire incident, sparing no detail. She described Carl's hesitation, his refusal to check availability despite knowing better, and the unmistakable undertones of bias in his behavior. As she spoke, Maya noticed a range of reactions among her team. Some looked shocked, others embarrassed, and a few seemed defensive. But Maya didn't sugarcoat the situation. This isn't just about one employee making a mistake, she said, her tone unwavering. It's about the systemic issues we've ignored for too long. We pride ourselves on being inclusive, but actions speak louder than words. Last night proved that we still have work to do. To drive her point home, Maya requested security footage from the lobby cameras. Within hours, the video confirmed what she already suspected. Carl had examined her ID thoroughly, taking extra time to scrutinize it before denying her request. He had access to real-time occupancy data and knew full well that rooms were available. Despite this, he chose to lie, a decision driven not by ignorance but by bias. The footage left the room silent. No one could deny what they saw. It was a stark reminder that discrimination wasn't always overt or malicious. Sometimes it was subtle and unconscious, lurking beneath the surface until it reared its ugly head in moments like these. Maya wasted no time addressing the issue head-on. She announced that Carl would be terminated immediately, not out of vengeance, but because his actions violated the core values of Luxus Stay Hotels. However, firing him wasn't enough. Maya wanted to ensure that this incident served as a catalyst for change, both within the company and beyond. We can't undo what happened, she told her team, but we can use it to make things better. This is our chance to lead by example and set a new standard for the industry. Her first step was to implement mandatory anti-bias training for all employees, starting with frontline staff like receptionists, concierges, and housekeeping teams. The program would go beyond generic lectures. It would include interactive workshops, role-playing scenarios, and open discussions designed to challenge preconceived notions and foster empathy. Maya also brought in external experts to guide the initiative, ensuring that the training was thorough and effective. In addition to the training, Maya introduced a groundbreaking policy, anonymous guest feedback forms. These forms would allow visitors to share their experiences without fear of judgment or retaliation. Every comment, positive or negative, would be reviewed by a dedicated diversity committee tasked with identifying areas for improvement. Maya believed transparency was key to accountability, and she wanted her guests to feel empowered to speak up if they ever felt mistreated. But Maya didn't stop there. She knew that true change required more than internal reforms. It needed financial commitment. During the meeting, she announced a bold pledge. 10% of Luxus Stay Hotels' annual profits would be allocated toward scholarships for minority students pursuing careers in hospitality management. Education, she argued, was the foundation of progress. By investing in the next generation of diverse leaders, she hoped to create a ripple effect that would transform the industry from the ground up. As the meeting drew to a close, Maya addressed her team one final time. "This isn't just about fixing a problem," she said. "It's about building a legacy. Let's turn this painful moment into an opportunity to redefine who we are and what we stand for." Word of the incident spread quickly throughout the company. Employees whispered about the confrontation in the lobby, speculating about what might happen next. To Maya's surprise, many approached her directly to express their support. Some shared personal stories of discrimination they had faced in other workplaces, while others admitted they had witnessed similar incidents at Luxus Stay but hadn't known how to address them. Their honesty touched Maya deeply, reinforcing her belief that change was possible, but only if everyone worked together. Meanwhile, Carl's termination became a topic of heated debate among the staff. While some agreed it was the right call, others felt sympathy for him, arguing that he was simply a product of societal conditioning. Maya understood both perspectives, which is why she decided to meet with Carl personally before he left the company. The conversation took place in a quiet corner of the hotel cafe. Carl sat across from Maya, visibly nervous. His hands trembled as he fiddled with the edge of his shirt, and his eyes darted around the room, unable to meet hers. Maya, however, remained calm and composed. She didn't want this meeting to be about punishment. It was about understanding. "I know you didn't intend to hurt anyone," she began gently. "But your actions last night had consequences. Do you understand why what you did was wrong?" Carl hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Yes, ma'am, I panicked. I didn't recognize you and I thought, I don't know what I thought, I messed up. Maya studied him carefully. There was sincerity in his voice, but also confusion, a reflection of the biases he hadn't even realized he held. It's okay to admit that you made a mistake, she said. What matters now is what you do next. This experience doesn't define you, but it can shape you. You have the power to grow, to learn, and to become someone who challenges those biases instead of letting them control you. Tears welled up in Carl's eyes as he listened. For the first time, he saw the weight of his actions, not just on Maya, but on the broader community. Thank you, he whispered. I'll try to do better. When the meeting ended, Maya felt a strange mix of emotions: sadness for the pain caused by prejudice, hope for the possibility of growth, and determination to keep pushing forward. This incident had shaken her, but it had also strengthened her resolve. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to face it, one step at a time. Little did she know, the changes she had set in motion would soon ripple far, beyond the walls of the Grand Lux Estate, sparking conversations and inspiring movements across the country. And through it all, Maya Reynolds would remain at the center of it, a beacon of resilience, courage, and unwavering belief in the power of change. The morning after the incident, Maya sat at her desk in her penthouse office, staring out at the Atlanta skyline. Her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts: anger, frustration, determination. But one thing was clear: this moment couldn't be swept under the rug. It wasn't just about her. It was about every person who had ever been made to feel small or unseen because of the color of their skin, their gender, or their background. This was her chance to turn pain into purpose. Maya picked up her phone and typed out a statement. She didn't want to wait for rumors or gossip to spread. It was time to take control of the narrative. Within hours, she posted a heartfelt message on Lux Estate Hotel's official social media accounts. The post was simple, but powerful. Last night, I was denied a room in my own hotel. As the CEO of Lux Estate Hotels, I should have felt safe and respected in a space I created. Instead, I faced discrimination, not because of anything I did, but because of assumptions based on how I owe. Look, this isn't just my story. Every day, people of color face similar indignities in hotels, restaurants, airports, and countless other places. What happened to me is unacceptable, and it's time we talk about it. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Comments flooded in from all over the world. Some shared stories of their own experiences with racism and bias in the hospitality industry. Others praised Maya for speaking out and using her platform to shine a light on an issue that often went unaddressed. Celebrities, activists, and influencers joined the conversation, amplifying her message. News outlets picked up the story, turning what could have been a private humiliation into a global dialogue about systemic discrimination. But Maya didn't stop there. She knew words alone weren't enough. Action was needed. And fast. Over the next few weeks, she threw herself into implementing the initiatives she had announced during the emergency meeting. Mandatory anti-bias training sessions began across all Lux Estate locations, starting with frontline staff like receptionists, concierges, and housekeeping teams. These weren't your typical corporate seminars where employees half listened while checking their phones. Maya made sure the workshops were engaging, interactive, and most importantly, impactful. The training sessions included role-playing exercises designed to help employees recognize unconscious biases. For instance, trainers acted out scenarios where guests of different races, genders, or appearances were treated differently. Employees were asked to identify the biases at play and discuss how they could handle the situations more fairly. There were also open forums where staff members could share their own experiences with discrimination, whether as victims or witnesses. Many admitted they hadn't realized how deeply ingrained these prejudices were until they started unpacking them. Maya attended several of these sessions personally, not as the CEO looking down from above, but as a participant willing to learn, alongside her team. During one particularly emotional session, a housekeeper named Maria stood up and shared how she had once been mistaken for a guest trying to sneak into a restricted area simply because she was Latina. Her voice trembled as she recounted the humiliation of being questioned by security in front of colleagues and visitors. "I've worked here for 5 years," she said, tears streaming down her face. "And yet, I still feel like I have to prove I belong." The room fell silent as Maria spoke. When she finished, Maya walked over and hugged her tightly. "Thank you for sharing your story," she said softly. "This is why we're doing this, to make sure no one ever has to feel that way again." As the weeks went by, the impact of the training became evident. Employees reported feeling more aware of their own biases and more confident in addressing discriminatory behavior when they saw it. Guests began noticing a shift too. One traveler wrote in a review, "I've stayed at the Grand Lux Stay before, but this time felt different. Everyone, from the valet to the front desk staff, went out of their way to make me feel welcome. It's like they truly care." Meanwhile, Maya's pledge to allocate 10% of LuxStay's annual profits towards scholarships for minority students pursuing careers in hospitality management gained widespread attention. Applications poured in from young people eager to break into an industry that had historically excluded them. Maya personally reviewed dozens of essays, each one filled with dreams of creating inclusive spaces where everyone felt valued. She selected 10 recipients for the inaugural scholarship program and invited them to a special luncheon at the Grand Lux Stay. At the event, Maya delivered a speech that left many in tears. "When I started Lux Stay, I wanted to build more than just hotels," she said. "I wanted to build bridges, to bring people together to celebrate diversity, and to prove that success isn't limited to one type of person. Each of you represents the future of this industry. You are the leaders, the innovators, the change-makers, and I can't wait to see what you'll accomplish." The scholarships were just the beginning. Inspired by the public response to her statement, Maya launched a broader initiative called Open Doors. The program aimed to partner with organizations working to combat discrimination in the hospitality sector. Together, they developed guidelines for businesses to create safer, more inclusive environments for both employees and guests. Hotels, restaurants, and airlines around the country began adopting these practices, citing LuxStay as a model for progress. Maya also used her newfound visibility to advocate for legislative changes. She testified before Congress about the need for stricter anti-discrimination laws in the service industry. Her testimony was raw and honest, drawing on her personal experience to highlight the urgent need for reform. Lawmakers listened intently, promising to prioritize the issue in upcoming sessions. Back at LuxStay, business soared. The controversy surrounding the incident had initially sparked fears of backlash, but the opposite happened. Customers rallied behind the brand, flooding reservations and leaving glowing reviews. Many specifically mentioned the company's commitment to inclusivity as a reason for choosing LuxStay over competitors. Celebrities and influencers hosted events at the hotels, further boosting its reputation as a leader in social responsibility. Through it all, Maya remained humble. She knew the work wasn't done. There would always be challenges to face, biases to confront, and systems to dismantle. But she also knew that change was possible. By turning a painful moment into an opportunity for growth, she had proven that even the hardest obstacles could become stepping stones to something greater. One evening, as Maya stood on the rooftop terrace of the Grand Lux Stay, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink, she allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. The road ahead was long, but she was ready. With resilience, courage, and an unwavering belief in the power of change, Maya Reynolds had transformed a single act of discrimination into a movement that would inspire generations to come. Weeks turned into months, and the changes Maya had set in motion began to take root. The Grand Lux Stay, and every other LuxStay property, felt different. It wasn't just the new policies or the anti-bias training, it was the energy in the air. Employees carried themselves with a renewed sense of purpose, knowing they were part of something bigger than just a job. Guests noticed it too. From the warm smiles at check-in to the thoughtful gestures throughout their stay, there was an authenticity that couldn't be faked. People didn't just visit LuxeStay hotels anymore. They experienced them. Carl's story became one of unexpected redemption. After his termination, he disappeared from the public eye for a while. Some assumed he'd moved on, perhaps to another city or career. But then, several weeks later, Maya received an email from him. It was short but sincere. "Thank you for not giving up on me." Intrigued, Maya asked Jamal to arrange a follow-up meeting. When Carl walked into her office this time, he looked different, not just physically but emotionally. He stood taller, his shoulders squared, and his eyes met hers without hesitation. "I owe you an apology," he began, his voice steady. "What I did was wrong, and I've spent every day since trying to understand why I acted that way." Maya nodded, encouraging him to continue. Carl explained how the incident had forced him to confront uncomfortable truths about himself. Growing up in a predominantly white neighborhood, he had absorbed stereotypes without even realizing it. "I never thought of myself as prejudiced," he admitted. "But that night made me see how deeply those biases were buried inside me. I let fear and ignorance guide my actions instead of logic and fairness." He went on to share that after losing his job, he enrolled in counseling sessions focused on racial sensitivity and unconscious bias. He also volunteered at a local community center, working alongside people from diverse backgrounds. "It's been humbling," he said, his voice cracking slightly. "But it's also been healing. I'm learning to see people for who they really are, not what society tells me they should be." Maya listened intently, her expression softening. She had always believed in second chances, and Carl's transformation was proof that growth was possible, even in the face of mistakes. "You've come a long way," she told him, "and I'm proud of you for taking responsibility. This isn't easy work, but it's necessary if we want to create a better world." To everyone's surprise, Maya decided to rehire Carl, not as a front desk employee, but in a newly created role within the Diversity and Inclusion Department. His task? To help train new hires on recognizing and overcoming their own biases. At first, some members of the team were skeptical. Could someone who had caused so much harm truly contribute to healing? But over time, Carl proved himself through his dedication and honesty. During training sessions, he openly shared his story, using his past missteps as a lesson for others. His vulnerability resonated deeply with employees, making the workshops even more impactful. As word spread about LuxeStay's initiatives, the company gained recognition far beyond Atlanta. Industry leaders praised Maya for her bold approach to tackling systemic issues head-on. Awards rolled in, not just for excellence in hospitality, but for leadership in social responsibility. LuxeStay became a case study in business schools, with professors analyzing how Maya had turned a crisis into an opportunity for meaningful change. But the real measure of success came from the stories guests shared. A Black family visiting from Chicago wrote about how their children had been treated like royalty during their stay. "For the first time, we felt seen and valued," the father wrote. "Our kids left believing they could achieve anything because LuxeStay showed them they mattered." Another guest, a transgender woman traveling alone, described how the staff went out of their way to ensure her comfort and safety. "I've never felt so respected in a hotel before," she wrote. "Thank you for creating a space where everyone belongs." These testimonials fueled Maya's determination to keep pushing forward. She expanded the Open Doors initiative, partnering with hotels and restaurants across the country to implement similar anti-bias programs. Together, they formed a coalition committed to fostering inclusivity in the hospitality industry. The movement gained momentum, with businesses large and small joining forces to challenge outdated norms and create safer spaces for all. Maya's advocacy extended beyond the corporate world. She became a sought-after speaker, delivering keynote addresses at conferences around the globe. Her speeches weren't polished perfection, they were raw, honest, and deeply personal. She spoke about her journey, from growing up in a working-class family to building a multi-million-dollar empire. She talked about the discrimination she faced along the way, and how those experiences shaped her vision for a more equitable future. Audiences hung on her every word, inspired by her resilience and unwavering belief in the power of change. One of her most memorable appearances was at a global summit on diversity and inclusion. Standing on stage in front of thousands of attendees, Maya shared a story that brought many to tears. "When I was denied a room in my own hotel," she said, "it hurt. Not just because of what happened, but because it reminded me of all the times I'd been told I didn't belong. But here's the thing. Pain can either break you or build you. I chose to let it build me. And today, I stand here not as a victim, but as a victor. A testament to the fact that no obstacle is insurmountable when met with purpose and grace." The audience erupted in applause, rising to their feet in a standing ovation. Maya smiled, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to feel proud, not just of what she had achieved, but of the ripple effect her actions had created. Back home, Atlanta embraced Luxus as a symbol of progress. Local artists collaborated with the hotel to create murals celebrating diversity and unity. Community events hosted at the Grand Lux Stay drew crowds eager to engage in conversations about equality and inclusion. Even rival businesses took note, adopting similar practices in hopes of capturing the same magic. Despite the accolades and admiration, Maya remained grounded. She continued visiting each Luxus Stay location regularly, ensuring that the values she championed were being upheld. Whether chatting with housekeepers in the laundry room or greeting guests in the lobby, she stayed connected to the heart of her operation, the people. Late one evening, as Maya sat in her office reviewing reports, she found herself reflecting on how far she'd come. The incident that had once felt like a devastating blow had become the catalyst for transformation, not just for her company, but for an entire industry. She thought about Carl, now thriving in his new role, and the countless lives touched by the changes she had spearheaded. Most importantly, she thought about the future, a future where no one would ever have to question whether they belonged. With a satisfied smile, Maya closed her laptop and leaned back in her chair. The road ahead would still have its challenges, but she was ready. Armed with resilience, courage, and an unshakable belief in the power of change, Maya Reynolds had proven that even the darkest moments could lead to the brightest outcomes. And, as she gazed out at the glittering Atlanta skyline, she knew the best was yet to come. Years had passed since the night Maya Reynolds was denied a room in her own hotel. What began as a deeply personal affront had blossomed into a legacy of resilience, courage, and transformation, not just for Luxus Stay hotels, but for the entire hospitality industry. The ripple effects of that single incident continued to shape lives, policies, and communities around the world. And now, on a crisp autumn morning, Maya stood on stage at Harvard Business School, preparing to deliver the commencement address to a sea of eager graduates. The auditorium buzzed with anticipation. Students clad in caps and gowns whispered excitedly, their eyes fixed on the woman who had become a global icon. As Maya adjusted the microphone and scanned the crowd, she couldn't help but feel a surge of nostalgia. It wasn't so long ago that she had been sitting where they were now, uncertain about the future but determined to make her mark. She smiled warmly before beginning her speech. "When I graduated from community college," she said, her voice steady yet filled with emotion, "I never imagined I'd be standing here today. Back then, my dreams felt impossibly big, and the obstacles in front of me seemed insurmountable. But I learned something early on that guided me through every challenge. Success isn't measured by titles or wealth. It's measured by the lives you touch and the barriers you help dismantle." Maya went on to recount her journey, the long hours spent juggling work and studies, the sacrifices made by her parents, and the countless moments when she questioned whether she belonged in spaces dominated by people who didn't look like her. She spoke candidly about the discrimination she faced, including the infamous night at the Grand Lux Stay, That experience could have broken me, she admitted. Instead, it taught me that pain can either paralyze you or propel you. I chose to let it fuel my purpose, to create a world where everyone feels valued, no matter who they are. Her words resonated deeply with the audience. Many nodded in agreement while others wiped away tears. Maya's vulnerability made her relatable. Her strength made her inspiring. She shared stories of individuals whose lives had been transformed by Luxestay's initiatives, the scholarship recipients pursuing careers in hospitality, the employees who found confidence through anti-bias training, and the guests who finally felt seen and respected. Each story underscored the importance of leading with empathy and intention. As she wrapped up her speech, Maya left the graduates with a powerful message. You are entering a world full of challenges, yes, but also opportunities. Don't shy away from difficult conversations. They're often where the most meaningful change begins. Use your voices, your platforms, and your talents to lift others up. Remember, leadership isn't about being in charge, it's about taking care of those in your charge. The applause that followed was thunderous, echoing through the auditorium, like waves crashing against a shore. Students leapt to their feet, cheering and clapping as Maya waved graciously. For many, this moment would stay etched in their memories, a reminder of what was possible when passion met perseverance. Back in Atlanta, the Grand Luxestay had evolved into more than just a luxury hotel. It was now a living museum of sorts, featuring an exhibit dedicated to Maya's journey and the impact of her work. Visitors could walk through a timeline of her achievements, complete with photographs, videos, and artifacts. One corner showcased the handwritten notes she used to welcome guests during the early days of Luxestay. Another displayed letters from grateful customers whose lives had been touched by the hotel's inclusive culture. At the center of the exhibit stood a plaque engraved with Maya's favorite quote, "Our job isn't just to provide shelter, it's to create memories." The exhibit became a must-see attraction, drawing tourists, students, and aspiring entrepreneurs alike. School groups visited regularly, learning about the importance of diversity, inclusion, and ethical leadership. Teachers praised Luxestay for offering such an immersive educational experience, saying it inspired young minds to dream boldly and act compassionately. Meanwhile, Carl's transformation remained one of the most talked-about aspects of the Luxestay story. Now a key figure in the company's diversity and inclusion efforts, he traveled across the country to lead workshops and share his journey. His honesty and humility struck a chord with audiences, proving that redemption was possible if one was willing to do the hard work. During a panel discussion at a national conference, Carl reflected on how far he'd come. "I used to think I wasn't prejudiced because I didn't use slurs or treat people poorly on purpose," he said. "But Maya taught me that bias isn't always loud. It's quiet, sneaky, and often unconscious. Facing that truth was uncomfortable, but it saved me. It made me better." His words earned him a standing ovation, further cementing his role as a symbol of growth and accountability. Maya often introduced him at events, proudly calling him one of our greatest success stories. Their partnership served as a testament to the power of forgiveness and second chances. Luxestay's influence extended beyond its walls. The Open Doors initiative had grown into a nationwide movement, with over 500 businesses adopting its principles. Hotels, restaurants, airlines, and retail chains collaborated to create safer, more inclusive environments for both employees and customers. Annual summits brought together leaders from various industries to discuss progress and identify areas for improvement. Maya chaired these gatherings, using her platform to amplify marginalized voices and push for systemic change. Despite her fame, Maya remained remarkably grounded. She continued visiting each Luxestay location regularly, ensuring that the values she championed were woven into the fabric of daily operations. Whether chatting with housekeepers in the break room or surprising guests with complimentary desserts, she stayed connected to the heart of her business. Her presence alone reminded everyone, from frontline staff to senior executives, that leadership was about service, not superiority. One evening, as Maya strolled through the lobby of the Grand Luxestay, she paused to watch a young family checking in. The children giggled as a bellhop handed them balloon animals while their parents exchanged warm greetings with the receptionist. Maya smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. This was what she had worked so hard to build, a space where joy, respect, and belonging weren't just ideals, but realities. Later that night, she sat on the rooftop terrace, sipping tea as the city lights twinkled below. Her mind wandered back to that fateful evening years ago, the anger, the hurt, the determination. She thought about how much had changed since then, not just in her life but in the lives of countless others. While she wished the incident had never happened, she was grateful for the lessons it taught her and the world. Maya leaned back in her chair, letting the cool breeze brush against her face. She knew the work wasn't done. There would always be new challenges to face, new biases to confront, and new systems to dismantle. But she also knew she wasn't alone. Together with her team, her allies, and the community she served, she had proven that change was possible. And as long as there were people willing to fight for justice and equality, the future would shine brighter than ever. With a contented sigh, Maya raised her teacup in a silent toast. To resilience, to courage, and to the unyielding belief that no obstacle was too great when met with purpose and grace.